Thank you so much for joining us. This is such an important topic. Let's just jump right in. We're talking about the power, the importance of assertiveness. Some people are awkward with this topic and they don't really like to speak out. There's sometimes cultural differences, as you and I have talked about. There's some perceptions with men and women that aren't fair, but are sometimes there about what is aggressiveness and what is assertiveness. If you could first talk to us about the importance of assertiveness. You and I were talking a little bit before we came on camera here.
Yeah, so Michael, thank you so much for having me. I agree. Assertiveness is a very important subject, and I think a lot of the times it's kind of its scope is maybe a little bit misunderstood because when we think about assertiveness, a lot of people might think about the ability to say no. However, it's so much more than that. It is one of the soft skills that is underpinning other soft skills. And in that, if you are not assertive, you even though you would have other soft skills, such as, for example, you are a good listener, or you are empathetic, but because you are not assertive, you're not going to be able to use the information that those other soft skills give you. So, for example, if you are a good listener, and let's say as a clinical monitor, you go to a site and you interact with the site staff and you gather what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses. And if you are assertive, then you are going to be able to work with them in a way to use their strengths and mitigate their weaknesses. However, if you're not assertive, then you may feel that this is kind of like out of your remit, or it's not a good it's not a place for you to kind of motivate them in that way, because being assertive sometimes means that you have to kind of acknowledge that some people have weaknesses, and you need to be able to kind of do that in a way that is only motivating. Other example where assertiveness may block your other soft skills is empathy. Let's say, for example, in a study team, if one of the teammates is struggling, if you're assertive, you are going to find a way to kind of step in and say, hey, I want to have your back. How can I help you? What can I do? Or you can even offer what you can actually do to help them. But, again, if you are not assertive, you are going to kind of shy away from that. You are maybe more prone to thinking, okay, maybe it's somebody else's job. Let's hope that somebody else is going to kind of, have that struggling colleagues back. Assertiveness.
Let me ask, are there cultural issues here too? I mean, sort of one person's assertiveness is another person's, arrogance or pushiness, or people sometimes, I'm speaking broadly here. I mean, everybody's an individual, obviously, but are there cultural things to think about on both sides of this?
For sure, yes, definitely. I think, it is a little bit tricky to know every other culture, but I think just even the awareness of the cultural differences, and maybe kind of before you react, you research who you are actually dealing with, and when you're dealing with when you are building a relationship, and let's say there's a global team on your study, and you are working with different countries, then I definitely recommend doing some research on the cultural differences, because for sure there are. And when I speak to a person who is an American, or a person who is from Japan, I definitely kind of adjust my discourse to kind of to actually get to the person in the right way. And sometimes there are also levels of that. Sometimes you have to be diplomatic, sometimes you can be more open. So yeah, and then definitely there are differences, whether you are male or female, and there shouldn't be, but there are.
So you talked about assertiveness meaning more than just saying no. Talk us a little bit more about that. What do you mean by that?
So I think, as I mentioned, a lot of people think about assertiveness as a ability to say no in a respectful manner, but it is so much more than that. It affects our professional identity, it affects our work-life balance, and it even affects our decision making. So these are some of the areas that are maybe a little bit surprising, to think that actually if you're not assertive, these areas are going to be super challenging for you. So just to unpack these three areas. So what does it mean that assertiveness affects your professional identity? So basically it means it's a question of whether or not we are able to assert ourselves, our needs and our wants. It is a question of whether or not we are able to ask for things. Are we able to ask for help? Are we able to ask for more resources if we are super busy and we're thinking maybe we're not going to be able to hit a deadline? Or also, can we ask, for example, a person that we admire at work to be our mentor? And then it also, of course, helps us to negotiate. Can you negotiate a better salary, a promotion, or a transfer? So basically it affects whether or not we can look after our career. So the next one is the work-life balance. So, you know, clinical research is a very difficult, a very fast-paced and busy environment. And assertiveness gives us this understanding that your relationship to work is a two-way street. So, you know, even if you are working overtime, there is, or there should be, an option to ask for time off in lieu, or to ask for some things that you need for your work-life balance. And, you know, to every one of us, this looks slightly differently, but, you know, once you understand what it is that you need to kind of be a better employee, then you having assertiveness, you are going to be able to ask for it. So the funny thing is that you know, work and life balance makes us better employees, but sometimes it seems to be the thing that we have to be able to negotiate. And then the last area that I mentioned, decision making. You know, in our busy environment, you have to prioritize, because, you know, our to-do list is just so long that, you know, you have to be constantly choosing what it is that needs to be done now and what can be done later. But, you know, if you are not assertive, you will not be able to pick. You may kind of waste a lot of time thinking, okay, what is it the most important thing that I have to focus on right now? However, if you are assertive, then you will pick the thing that, you know, you will make the decision based on the information that is available to you at that time. And then later, you know, there is a possibility that maybe you will have to be able to defend it. Maybe you will have to be able to justify it. But assertiveness kind of gives you the room to take the risk and to have that room to develop and learn and yeah, take the decision that you know, is the best decision that you believe to be at that time. So yeah, and you know, if you are in the process of kind of making those decisions, even if you decide wrongly, you know, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but you know it only later on. So yeah, it's kind of, you know, to go even further, assertiveness is connected to our effectiveness, but that's for another time.
Right, before I let you go, I just want to touch on this too. It sounds to me like, you know, we've got a lot of burnout in this industry, a lot of turnover, and there's many factors. But I've got to think one of them is the relative lack of assertiveness, because it's almost like someone being depressed or demoralized rather than taking action, right? If you get this right, if you can be more assertive, I've got to think it would, I don't know, it would put a dent into burnout. It won't solve everything, but it's got to help, right?
Definitely, you know, if people have their work-life balance, you know, then it is all okay, because it is, you can then work like you know, in top form for in the long term. You won't hit burnout if you kind of, you know, whenever you understand that, okay, I am actually working overtime right now, but then let's say in some time, and it is something definite, let's say in a week's time or in 2 weeks time, or whatever is the, you know, the situation there, when you kind of feel that, okay, so I am going to focus on work now, but then I can, you know, rest and recuperate in some time, then our approach, I believe, is completely different. And you know, when you are able to ask for what you need, then you know, you are going to get it. That's how, you know, that's how we have to kind of yeah, find that strength to kind of ask for things. But these are the soft skills that you have to keep working on and you have to develop. And I have some tips for people who want to become more assertive. So, you know, it is this understanding that assertiveness is not just about saying no. You know, when you are saying yes to things, you kind of maybe making yourself unavailable for other things, like for example your personal time. So you know, I recommend next time when somebody asks you to take on that additional task, instead of just kind of instantly feeling pressured to say yes or no. So, you know, if people are not assertive, then they will say yes rather than no. Then I would say just give yourself time and say, let me think about it. Or, you know, you can say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. Or, you know, I need to think about it and, you know, I'll let you know tomorrow. But then, you know, do get back to them because it is equally important.